Yes, so maybe just for a short while, I can share my experience as well. My son went into primary one in 2022, and that was during the COVID restrictions. So it was actually, I thought it was going to be very emotional. I thought I was going to like watch him walk into the school, you know, and cry a tear or something. But no, we were not allowed to visit the school at all. Before he went into the school, we were also not allowed to walk in with him at all. So we could only drive in and drop him, and the teacher just brought him away, and that was it, whisked him into the class. And then I just had to drive off because we can't even stop there. So it was a very emotionless experience. But after that, as I think back, I think it was good for me. So I didn't have time to feel too emotional about it, but it is an emotional stage, both for kids and for parents as well. Okay, before we start with the keynote session, we want to know a little bit about all of you. How many of you have children entering primary school next year? Ooh, oh, so almost all of you. Okay, so you have a child about to enter primary one in 2024. What about 2025? Okay, so you guys are like early birds, right? You want to learn a bit more before it actually happens. Very good. Always equip yourself with as much knowledge and strategies as you can. Okay, so I think you guys are ready to learn about how to transition to primary one. And now, may I invite our first keynote speaker, Mr. Charles Chan, Principal of Henry Park Primary School, Ministry of Education, up on stage to tell us how we can prepare our children for primary one. Take it away, Mr. Chan.
Good morning. Good to see you here. Pavan asked one question, she missed out the second part of it. How many of you are going to be parents of a P1 child for the first time? That's more important. Okay, so my role today is to assure you that the first time, even if it's the second time, will be different. And your first time should be something that, even though it's emotional, should be a good one. Okay, so let me share with you about myself. Can you see? Just moving this a little bit. So that's my 5 children. My wife is here. And this was the last trip we took to Beijing, and it was the Great Wall in 2019, before COVID struck and we couldn't go anywhere. What's wonderful about this photograph, and I shared it with various platforms, is that it's not about my family itself, but that 5 children that I have, all from one wife, actually have different ways of learning and different trajectories. They went through different education streams. If you read the newspaper articles that I write regularly for the Straits Times, you will know that they went through different ways and pathways. And for me as an educator, it's something that I accept because we know that our children are all different. Your experiences, whether it's a first time or a second time, for every child that you go to will be different. It's also interesting to look at this as a journey. The Great Wall is very long. I don't know how many thousands of kilometers it is, but we only went through that short one. But we talk about it as a journey, life as a family, and I say I enjoy my family of 5 kids. It's exciting. It's really thriving, and I find there are ups and there are downs. But you know, we all know that we are in this together. Sometimes someone will stop along the way, someone will wander somewhere else, but there is a goal. Maybe the goal may not be the same for everyone else, but we're in this together. And so I want to assure you that as parents, and you know, we talk about parenting conference, it's not just as father, mother. And we talked about that. Minjo talked about how you can be a grandparent and can be an uncle and aunt. We're all doing parenting duties. So if I can assure you from the start that we are all in this journey, and as I go along, I hope I can get you to be assured of that. So I use these slides for my parents actually when they come for primary 1 orientation. In fact, when they come in the first day of school, I actually address them using the similar set of slides. And I really want to assure the parents, the first thing I always tell them is, I've just walked around the classes and the children are fine. Maybe 1 or 2 are crying. Are you fine? You are the ones that are nervous. You know, you talk about experience, you need to be calm, you need to be able to be prepared for it. And I remember our first experience, my wife and I, when we had our first daughter and we were going there and we were all nervous, we were wondering who is the one that is more nervous about first day of school. You know, if you are the one that's nervous and feeling that anxiety, your child is very good. Every child can sense it. And they will be the ones that will say, if my mother is nervous, I should also be nervous. So my hope is that you are prepared for primary 1 just as they are too. But I also say this, if you think that you're coming here to ask me whether or not I can send them to this enrichment or that enrichment, which enrichment center is better, I'm not doing that today. Okay, so I used HEART as an acronym. Some of the photographs you will see are taken from 2 schools. I was principal of Xingnan Primary School up to last year. I spent 7 years there. That's somewhere in Jurong, and now I'm in Henry Park Primary School. So some of these photographs are a mixture of both. I used the acronym HEART because I wanted to start off with the holistic aspect of how we prepare for primary 1. And we know a lot of times parents ask me, how can I prepare them for maths and science or English? And I'll say, look, remember that we're looking at the holistic development of a child. As your child is born, you look at it from food, milk, development, talking. It's not just about preparing for primary 6, PSLE and O-levels. I think that's what we need to remind ourselves. So the holistic aspect is something that I want to share with you. When I was in the Ministry of Education working on preschool curriculum before I became principal in Xingnan, I was working on the Nurturing Early Learners framework. Of course, it was years before that, so we were reviewing it, we refreshed it, and I think the framework actually has been refreshed last year. So that refreshment of the framework sets out learning goals for what children should be able to do at the end of preschool education. And you see this is taken from the document itself. There is an alignment. There is an alignment between what we want the children to achieve at the end of kindergarten, and we know that 99.9% of our children go to kindergarten. So at the end of kindergarten, this framework that we recommend, all preschools take reference from that. They are aligned to what we want to achieve in primary school. So I assure you that it's not as though some of you will say, hey, when they come to primary 1, they cannot do all these things. Let me share with you a few things about the transition. For example, one goal is that they should be able, in numeracy, we call it not maths, because in preschool we use different words. We don't want it to be so academic. So in numeracy, the children should be able to show understanding and use of numbers in daily experiences. So you see there's this whole swirl there. All the learning areas are there, but I'm just sharing you. So maths, numeracy-wise, they should be able to show an understanding and use numbers in daily experiences. Can we do that? The children can do that. And let me be even more specific. They only need to rote count to at least 20. Not 100, not 1,000, and some of you will say 1 million, 20. And then when I tell parents this, 20? They can do that already. Yes. Rote count. You know what's rote count? 1, 2, 3, up to 20. And then they say to me, then preschool then we ask them to do some count reliably, numbers operation, up to 10 things. Can do not? The preschools prepare them for that. When they come to primary 1, that's all we expect. 10 things means, what is 5 plus 5? 5 things and 5 things. What is 3 things plus 7 things? What is 8 and 2? Up to 10. So those of you who have children who can do up to 100, they will come to me in primary 1 thinking, I no need to come to school for 3 years already. I'm bored. And that's what's happening. We're getting children who are over-prepared. And so I'm telling you, I want to share with you that from numeracy, that's something we want to share with you. Let me use language, English, and we also have mother tongue, for example, but let me use English. They should be able to listen and read for enjoyment. Can do. They should be able to listen and read for information and understanding. Meaning, if they see a toilet sign, toilet, male, MRT. My child can see, my youngest one, who is 10 years old, can take me around the whole of Singapore with the Northeast line, I'm lost. They should be able to speak with confidence, to convey meaning, and to communicate with others. I would like to eat this. And you know our children say that they're quite emphatic, right? Sometimes we wish they didn't have so much wishes. They're so clear of themselves. And they are ready. And the preschool is meant to prepare them for that. Where writing is concerned, they should be able to use symbols, get it? Use symbols, letters, and words, whether conventional, means in the correct way, or invented, which means if they spell wrongly, never mind. But you know that it's their name lah. If they spell stop and S-T-O-P and they mix it around, it's okay. It's not dyslexia. It's part of growing up. As long as they use this to communicate ideas, when they come to us, we are fine. Okay? So I want to point out that it's important to note children have different levels of development and academic readiness. Even if they cannot do all these things, it's fine. When you enter primary school, we're not going to say this one's slow. We're not going to judge you when you come in orientation. They used to do that years ago, and we stopped that. I told teachers, you are not doing any identification of any child. We assigned the classes way before that, in November. It's at random. And when they come there, when they enter primary schools, the teachers will know how to help them to level up. We'll have programs, we have ways, and we want to assure you, we will not label your child. We will be there to support you and take this journey with you as we go up and down that Great Wall of China. In this case here, the great learning journey of our lives. It's important to nurture in our children values, social emotional competencies, and learning dispositions. This is something that is at the center there, and which is what the Refresh framework has talked about, which they can then use when they transit into primary school environment. What matters more is the readiness of children to accept children of different backgrounds and culture. We know now that children come from different families, different kinds of transnational families, different kinds of families with different cultures. We want them to be able to see in our schools that, oh, you are different, and I can appreciate that. They're not all homogeneous anymore. So that's something that we want them to be able to appreciate even in preschool, so that when they come to the classes, they won't go, this one not my type. That's what we want, and you can do that. You can do that as a parent. When you do that, then they will say, this can be my friend. I can have, my son can have a girl who is a friend, and she can be of a different race. And when you do that on primary 1, you've helped us. That's something that you can do. So not about maths and English. The children should have self and social awareness. They should be able to know themselves, know how others may be different from them, and have self-management skills, such as knowing their emotions. I am angry, not just sit down there and cry. I would appreciate if a primary 1 child comes and tells me, I'm very sad. I can't see my mother, but you can see her in 3 hours. I'm very sad because today I got a lot of tuition. That one they tell me a lot. And that's primary 1, tuition, homework. So that's something we want them to be able to do, and to be able to have that positive attitude towards learning. So that's where we're coming from. We want them to also be able to build relationships with others and use appropriate strategies when they have disagreements. How do they use appropriate strategies if you are the one that's always going there and then telling them, okay, if your friend is quarreling with you, let me solve the problem for you. So I have many parents coming to me, even when they are in primary 6, going, my son just had a disagreement. I want to see the mother. I want to solve it myself. I need the children to be able to say, look, this is something that we can manage. We have learned these things. And my mother taught me, and this is what we call playground politics. My mother taught me that I can sort it out. If I cannot, I can go and look for someone later. But I don't have to go and punch somebody. I can learn strategies. We can discuss this. That's what we want them to do. Because in primary 1, suddenly they have 30 people in the class. It's no longer 20 or 25. And then they realize that they're not the center of the universe. The school is so big. When you're queuing up in the canteen, someone cuts your queue. You can say something about it. You don't have to kick. And then you go and tell your mother, actually, he kicked me first. Then you come back and you say, oh, let me help them. Who kicked who? Then you try and do these things. No need lah. The school will help you. How will we help you? We get them to talk to one another. So that's starting with holistic. If you can help them, and you can work with the preschool teachers to be able to develop in children a positive attitude towards learning, children will have positive learning behaviors, they have self-confidence, they will know that they can solve the problems themselves, and then they can go on to develop academic skills. Only when they do all these things, then you can talk about learning. Children who start school more eager to learn tend to do better in reading and maths. If they're eager to start school. If they're so scared of starting school because they don't know all these things, they don't know how they can make friends, they're not going to be able to be ready. Their social emotional learning are better predictors of student outcomes and school success and learning progressions, and Dr. Eva will talk more about that. So instead of sending children for enrichment classes, I know you do send them for enrichment classes. think properly. And June is coming up. Those of you who sign up, think properly, you can get back your deposit. I know some of you want to develop social-emotional learning, but parents, social-emotional learning cannot be farmed out. It's you. And Dr. Eva will talk about that later with you. So let me talk about the next slide. I spent a lot of time on holistic, but I will move on because I think it's important to know that it's not just about English and maths. But the next one is E, not excellence actually alone, but expectations too. Many parents who I've met or spoken to worry that the children cannot manage what you think will be very difficult in primary 1. So I assure you it's not. Some of you think, oh, language and maths they cannot do. Let me assure you that this is over-preparing if you actually send them for classes. When you over-prepare your children, some of you adopt early intervention. Early intervention from the time they're 18 months, I think. An early start mindset because of anxiety, you're anxious. That the children may lag behind. You do all these things. But in 18 months, when you send them there, actually all they want you is just hug them and love them. And you enroll them in enrichment focus. My son can do all these things at 19 months. He can count to 20, do all these. Very good. But what's more important? That's where I was coming from. Research shows that over-pitching and getting children to learn beyond what they're capable of, especially when they're forced to learn in ways that are not appropriate, and 18 months is not appropriate to the natural modes of learning, then they will end up demotivated. Then they come to me and they go, I'm bored. I've seen this already. 3 years' time, then talk to me. I also heard of parents who actually send them in the morning for one session of kindergarten, and then go back for lunch. Provide lunch first. Then afternoon, go for another session. I haven't heard of the ones that actually go for night sessions too. No need lah. Get your deposit back. Go and do something else with the money. Okay, I want to assure you, what parents you can do to prepare your child for primary school is to enrich their experiences, go beyond their preschool, encourage them to develop their interests. Dr. Eva will talk about that. Nurture their sense of curiosity. John Hattie has this thing to say, and I wanted to show you this next slide. It's called the Goldilocks principle. He's a famous Australian education researcher. He wrote a book with his son. And he talks about, this Goldilocks? You all read the story before? Never read story, go and find out this story, read to your children. It's about porridge, right? Not too hot, not too cold, just right. It's about our expectations. And if we have so high expectations of our children, they will end up being so scared of school. In primary 1, they start crying, not because they are afraid of friends, but they're afraid that they cannot catch up with everybody. I don't want you to be last in class. Is that really the case? So let's help them to do things within their ability. Because if they're not, they're frustrated. And if you don't have expectations, that's worse. No expectation, never mind, just go inside there, too cold. Then they will go bored. Because we must challenge them. And the role of school in primary 1 is to be able to challenge them. My teachers know how to do this. They will then challenge them to the right expectation and to move appropriately. Let me move on to A. Assessment, right? But let me change that. It's not assessment. The Ministry of Education has removed, at first it was media exams, right? Everybody this year. But you also know that in primary 1 and 2, we removed all exams. No weighted exams. Why did we do that? I remember, and this is my claim to fame, I remember telling Minister this about 8 years ago when I was in my first primary school for the first time. And I said, Minister, this primary 1 and 2 exams, and you remember at that time, I said, it's affecting us because we're doing all these wonderful things in our curriculum because we want to ensure there's transition from preschool, and yet we still have to give exams. He says, yeah, we're looking into that. And that's why we remove all these exams. I like to think I'm the one now. Okay, so if you don't like the fact that they remove the exams, then it's my fault. But I think it's wonderful because the teachers now spend more time helping their children discover whatever they are doing. They have more time to cater to children at their starting points and their developmental pace, and they can customize the instruction to them, provide additional support to them. That's where we're coming from. We want to be able to help them develop their sense of curiosity. So my question to you, parents, Min Jo is not here already, so I'll tell you this. There's new research that talk about you are the first teacher. This is not true, You are still parents. You are the first learner. You are not the school teacher. A lot of you like to think you are lah. Then you check all our work. And you say, hey, Mr. Chan, they got spelling error. Yeah lah, we make mistakes also. We are human. We are not ChatGPT. We make mistakes. Can be kind on us also. But a lot of you forget that you are your child's first learner. That's new research that we're talking about. What do you mean by that? You model it. When you sit there and you're reading, whether you're reading the newspapers, not just the 4D, whether you're reading an article, or whether you are actually saying, let's find out about this. You are the learner. Then your child knows that you are learning with them. You know what's different is when you start telling them, you will do this, you will do that. For your birthday, I will buy you this assessment sheet. Then you are the teacher. Then by the time they come to school and they see the teacher, you are like my mother, I don't want you. If you can be that first learner, then you can be the one that will say, oh, we are here. What are these flowers? Wonderful, wonderful. I don't know. Let's find out together. It doesn't take much time, doesn't take much resources. I know you can farm this out, but that connection that they have with you, and I'll talk about that in relationship, really makes a difference. What are the skeletons in your closet? That's my question. What are the skeletons in your closet about assessment, about homework? Because some of you come to me and they say, how come P1 and 2 got so little homework? It's like as though you want to torture your child when you went through school. No, it's some of the parents actually sound as though they are very excited. They want to be in class. You want to be there. Pei Fen said she hopes she could be there. We want you to come in to see what's it, but I don't think you want to relive your primary 1 and 2 experience. It's different. The 21st century parent is different already. We are prepared to open it to you post-COVID. I think a lot more schools are doing that. But what goes on in the class is what happens with the child and you. A lot of parents say, in kindergarten, they always send me photographs. How come now in class, they never send me? The teachers have 30 students. They have many things to do. And if they send you every photograph, they don't need to do it already. They might as well become photographers. So I have a mission. I have a mission to share with you that it's an adventure, and you are not putting your child up there so that primary 1 didn't get the award. You want to get the award now. You want to be there to stand with your child. Yes, I know we all want to do that, but is it for you or for your child? And then the parent will tell me, it's for my child. Are you sure? I want what's best for him and me. Are you sure? Because I have many children coming up to me, crying. I have so much homework to do, and I can feel it. I'm stressed at primary 1. And it goes down the line, because they do self-harm and worse things. And so my mission to you is, parents, we need to maybe chill it a bit. I know some of you will say, Charles, you okay? No, I have children with different abilities. My own 5 children. I'm chill. Because at the end of the day, we love them. They're not the trophies out there for me to put up. Can you ask yourself that question? The weekends, the holidays today, don't just spend all this time here. Make sure you go around. Spend that time with them. Go to the park, it's free. The museums are free. Most of us are Singaporeans. No need to spend the money on the enrichment. Use that money, go and have a meal. Talk about what is in the meal, and don't farm it out. The next one is R. And I think R is very important. And we know the research will talk about this. Quality interactions, talking to them, getting them to express themselves. I am happy, I'm sad. Beyond happy, what does happy mean? I am feeling very, joyful about the fact that I could make a new friend today. Parents are giving their children the confidence and curiosity to learn when you help them express themselves. You provide a strong start for them to be ready for primary school. Because when they come to me and they can talk to me, Mr. Chan, I didn't see you in school yesterday. I was like, why? I went for a meeting. I like that. I said, this child has got a parent who is a great learner. Not go away and run corners, so the principal is here. I need that kind of confidence, because when they are confident about themselves, when they can express themselves, when they can talk to another friend and go, what's your name? We've made a start. We made a start when you can do that for them. And not, put them into a class and then they go, this person don't know whether they're doing their worksheets properly. I need that confidence to be friends. You are a parent. Build that relationship with them. Spend time with them. And it need not be much time, quality time. My wife reads to them all the time. I don't, I just go back there and I'm tired. But that, even if one parent is doing it, I think it's great. Giving them a gadget is a great help. I know this happens because we are all busy people, giving them that gadget, play the game. But there are certain times we can actually stop it. Like meal times. And I see sometimes the children holding on to their gadgets at meal times, and then all the parents I know now the menus are online, but we can stop after we've ordered, right? And then put the phone down, and then we can start talking about, hey, what happened? We can do that. I'm not saying you cannot use it. In the age of 21st century, as we are parents, we can do things with them and let the gadget be put aside. Have some rules. And that relationship is very important, because when you spend time with them, you ask them about their schoolwork and their achievements, they will then discover, I can do this. I like this. Oh, I didn't know you like this. Ask them about their friends. They will tell you things. But please remember that whatever your child tells you is from his or her perspective. It may not necessarily be a lie, it's not untrue, but it may not necessarily be 100% accurate, because that's what your child sees. So if it says that today John pushed me, then you say, oh, John pushed you, why? Then you come and write me a note, one note. And then actually you found out that actually because he pushed John first. So let us, you can tell us, we heard this, relax. Let them solve their problems. What did you do? Did anybody do this? The first thing, it's so sad, the first thing when I see a child coming into the office and then they say, oh, I'm hurt, I fell. Instead of my teachers or my staff asking them, are you okay? The first thing we ask them is, anybody push you? Because we're so scared the parents will tell us, oh, we have to investigate. It's so sad. It should be, are you fine? What happened, right? It shouldn't be the one about how can we defend ourselves because the parents are going to hit us. So let's find out, help them to make friends. If you have siblings, great. If you have relatives, you have friends, let them go around, make friends on their own, learn to negotiate. I talk about playground politics, step back, observe, let them fall. It's okay. Still got very good medical services in Singapore. Won't die. Let them sort it out themselves sometimes until they start to maybe take the rock and hit each other. Then maybe we intervene. But we need to step back. Let them learn to solve their problems. So I want to move this next slide. It's interesting. I thought it's important to share with you to know what kind of parent are you. Some of you heard this before, seen this before. I want to add on, there are things that are not inside here, the social media parent, everything also photograph, everything also Instagram, or the expert parent, everything also you know more than me, okay lah. Then some parents telling me what to do. I think Mr. Chan, you should do this, then I think you take over lah. Or the gifted parent who knows everything that wants to tell us exactly that this is wrong. And I think it's great, We all know we have differences. But as long as you know that, oh, I am a helicopter parent, and when I do that, what is the impact on my child? How am I affecting him? Because when I go to primary 1, if I'm a helicopter parent and I'm going to tell a teacher, you need to talk to me for 2 hours, I need to tell you that this is my child, he is special, and he needs to do all this, then we have 29 other parents waiting for them. Let's find the opportunity to still communicate and also know that it's not just one child we're dealing with. I have 1,009 in my school. I'm scared. Okay? Multiply that by two parents each, and then sometimes we have grandmothers to deal with. After I talk to the father, the mother not happy, the mother talk to me. Then the grandparents also talk to me. I think if you know what kind of style, then you prepare yourself. You know that, okay, I tend to be that lawnmower parent, and everything that happens, I will make sure it is very smooth. Then you will know that when you go to primary 1, I will be very aware that I don't do this to my child, because your child knows. And sometimes my children tell me, Papa, please don't come. Mommy can do because people know you. Please stay away. I think they need that. Okay. The last one I want to talk about is transition. I think I'm in good time. The transition process is a journey. Some people take longer, some people take shorter. And it's not in primary 1 when you reach January, The transition process starts now. Some of you are having children only going in 2025, right? It starts now. Because now is the time that you start talking about which primary school shall we go. And you discuss this with your child. It's not as though you say, some of them tell me, "Tapuwei lah, he don't know. It's not true. The children know. The children know exactly what kind of milk they love. Right? The children know exactly what will irritate you. You don't think so, huh? Try. You see, they will know how to they'll cry, then you leave them alone, but they cry longer. They know how to hit you there. So where I'm coming from is you can start this journey by asking them, shall we go to this school? Just like my primary 6 students, they are going to see secondary schools. You can say, okay, let's look at this range of schools. Not because Henry Park is a very good school. Let's all go there, even though we live in Punggol. Do you think you can travel that 1 hour in bus? Is it good? Ask them. It's important to have that process because this is something that we start that transition journey even before that. And I want to assure you that, different children have different transition ways of taking this up. When they start primary 1, some of them, and this is important, a developmental milestone, if it's important for you to know, that even at 7 years old, we know from research, and I don't know whether Eva will talk about this, but that developmental age can range between 3 and 4 years, which means that a 7-year-old child, a boy especially, boys develop slower, can be actually at 3 or 4 years in terms of cognitive and social ability. They're not slow. It's just a delay. It just happens to be that way. It's not because it's not your fault. It's not your genetics, okay? Oh, you are the one that was stupid lah. It doesn't work that way. It's just the way we are made up. And they will catch up. So don't worry about that. The school is here to help you. So that transition journey may take longer, may take shorter. Your first child may be different from your second, and all my children are very different. So I want to assure you the transition process will differ from child to child. And even if they cannot do all these things that you want them to do, I assure you the school will help you with that. So transition in school, the preschools will do that for you. They will let you go to the schools. They will have an experience, go to the canteen. Nowadays, we don't use money anymore, You all know, right? We got watches, we can do online. No, don't worry, we will teach them they will teach them all these things. So the children don't have to handle money. But they will need how to learn, uncle, I want to buy a bowl or whatever. They need to learn all these things. And this is what the preschool will teach. This is what you need to help them to do. Don't go to the hawker center or food court nowadays because it's too hot. And then you say, I buy for you. Let them learn. There was a point of time that my children didn't dare go and buy drinks because they don't know how to order teh C kosong and all these things. Learn. This is something they need to do. So that when they come to primary 1, the buddies will only be with them for about maybe a week. And after that, how? I know of someone, a close relative of mine, the child didn't buy anything in the canteen for 2 years. I was thinking, why? Because scared. Hey, this is really worrying. Of course, you bring food every day, but if you're a very good mother, you can do bento box, very good lah. But we want them to be independent and be able to do that in that transition. So the preschool will help you with that. And when they come to orientation in November, which we do, we will get them to walk around the school. If the preschool hasn't already done that, we'll get them to have buddies, we'll get them to see their teachers. My teachers from November, as I said to you, are the same as the teachers that they will see on the 2nd or 3rd of January. So that they will know, these are my friends in the same class, and I'm looking forward to meet them. And then, of course, they realize 2 weeks later, you mean I have to do this every day for the next 6 years? Then our job is to help them in that transition process, the Great Wall of China. So that's something that schools will take care of. But you know what you can do? And that's what Minjo asked me to talk to you about. You can talk about that process of helping them to transit. You can actually say, besides the school, now you got this school already. Never mind, it wasn't our first choice. It's still a choice, right? Then let's go and buy the uniform together. Let's try it on. Oh, so nice. What is going to happen on the first day of school? What are we going to do about it? And MOE gives this book. I'm not showing off for MOE, but this is my son's name, my last child, and we happen to keep it. So this book contains, things that you can do with your child and activities. You see how colorful it is? And you can talk about this from November to December and January. Get them to be able to work on, no need to fill up worksheets, Don't worry, just talk. Okay? No need to complete everything and give to the primary 1 teacher when you start. But it's to help you in that process, to be able to talk, build relationships, and transition. So I wanted to end off with telling you, like the kite. The kite, and this is my children going there. We want them to have experiences, to enjoy school. They go for learning journeys sometimes 3 or 4 times in a year. And that's what happens in most schools now with no COVID. And they fly kites. Of course, we know that as a kite, as a child, we need to let go. Sometimes we may eventually need to cut it off when they become older. But we need to learn to pull and let go. But only when you let go can the kite fly higher. You need to let them grow because you can let it grow. So I'm not talking about Frozen. If you're there, what your children know, let it go. But let it be in your mind. So if I ever say anything to you today that you cannot remember, just remember we need to let it go to let them grow. Thank you very much. I'll take questions later.
Thank you, Mr. Chan. Yes, as I was sitting there and listening to Mr. Chan's presentation, I was reflecting on what kind of parent I am. I think I'm a different parent on different days during different seasons. I don't think we are just one kind all the time. Sometimes I'm a helicopter, sometimes I'm a tiger mom, sometimes I'm a flying tiger, and other times I'm an elephant. So, but I think the most important thing, actually, I feel that one of the biggest takeaways from the presentation that Mr. Chan just gave us is that we need to let our kids be kids. I think society is making us all try to advance too fast. So including our kids, you see videos of like child prodigies playing piano at 3-4 years old. Oh, I have to do that. Or she can solve math problems, secondary school math problems. Oh, I need my child to do that. Actually, every child is different. So we shouldn't compare our children to those, one or two prodigies, amazing children that are out there. I mean, that's great. It's great for their parents, but our children are our children and we know them best. So I always remind myself, let my boys be boys, and let my children be children for as long as they want to. So next, I think it's time to invite our second keynote speaker, and she has a lot to share with us, I believe. She is none other than Dr. Lau, Associate Professor and Associate Head of Department of Early Childhood Education from the Education University of Hong Kong. And she's going to be telling us the importance of parental involvement for school transition success. Let's give a round of applause for Dr. Eva.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to first, thank PCF for having me here, because last year I spoke at this conference online from Hong Kong, and it's so much better to be able to come in person and to share my experience and research face to face. So, as a researcher in family studies and early childhood education, I work with a lot of parents, and I train parents many times during the week and during the day. So I can see that a lot of parents are very worried about what to do with their kids. And I'm also a mother of two children, one 9-year-old and one 6-year-old, both in primary school. My son just got into primary one this year. So I can feel how parents want to do more to make sure that their kids are not behind and well prepared. But before I share with you some tips about what you might do that are fun and interesting with your kids to prepare them, I want to share some data with you to let you know that you are not alone if you are very worried about your kids. So last year, 2 years ago, during the pandemic, our team did a research on parents' perception of school transition in Hong Kong. So we interviewed 800 parents in Hong Kong who have kids who are in their last year of kindergarten. And then we asked them about questions related to, the kids' situation and parents' stress and anxiety about this process. And we did a press release conference at that time, and we received a lot of feedback. It was widely reported in the news because they were very surprised with our findings. And I'm sure this applies to the situation in Singapore too, based on the conversation that I have been having with the educators here. So what we found was, 92.8% of parents felt very stressed when helping their children prepare for primary school. 97.5% of parents told us that their children were not completely ready for primary school at different levels. And 53% of parents told us that their children felt anxious about the transition to primary school. In fact, about 1/3 of the parents told us that their children displayed some anxiety symptoms when it comes to preparing for primary school. But I think it's quite natural, isn't it? If you know the challenges related to school transition, it's quite demanding for children. Although Mr. Charles just told us that, relax, they're going to have fun, they will adapt. But still, there are quite a lot of changes. So I try to summarize them here. The first thing you will see is, the relationship. The relationship in kindergarten, it's going to be very different than with those relationships in primary school. The teachers have changed, and the interaction with teachers are mainly in the classroom doing teaching, whereas in kindergartens, you see the same teacher throughout the day. They need to make new friendships. There are more people in their class, more people in their school, and sometimes when it comes to, peer problems, the youngest one in the primary school usually have more problems than the oldest one. Right? Because they have less experience and they are just new to the environment. We also know that, for the routines, they have new routines and new expectations. And so we have higher expectation for independence and self-care abilities. And these could be challenging for the younger ones as well. For the curriculum, very knowledge-based, right? Although no tests in primary 1 and 2, it's good to know it's not the case in Hong Kong. It's very test-driven, academic-oriented. And so the learning pace, the learning materials will be very different to a very large extent from the kindergarten. And not to mention the physical environment. The school premises have changed. And I want to share with you one story from my son, who I told you just got into primary school this year. So in Chinese, many of you would know that we use 小中大 to describe the sizes, right? Small, medium, or middle, and large. So in Chinese, primary school is 小学, small school. And then secondary school is 中学, middle school. And then university is 大学, big school. And so when we first brought my son to his primary school now, the first thing he said to me is, Mommy, why is primary school 小学? It's so big. So we know that this is challenging, but hearing it from my son, really struck me, the physical environment is a big challenge to them. Not to mention the many other challenges that I just described in my last slide. So it's natural that parents are anxious. And it's natural for parents to choose to focus on the academic skills, because I can tell you that's the easiest part. If you want to train your kids, focusing on the academic skills may be easy to many parents than these non-academic skills that I'm going to mention. Because if you just drill them to do tests, if you just drill them to learn words, to spell the words, it's so easy. They just sit there and then you just push them and drill them and to ask them to memorize things. But these non-academic skills are actually the foundation skills that we learn from many years of research and experience that will help children succeed in the long run. Let me describe them to you. So the acronym here is BEARS. We want them to be the happy bears. So B-E-A-R-S. B stands for behavior. Do they know what is expected of them in the classroom, on the playground, or in the school in general? We need them to sit still, to pay attention, not to hit others, not to cut the line. These are the behaviors that are expected in the primary school. Do they know them? Can they follow them? Behavior. The second one is emotion regulation. We don't expect them to be happy all the time, because we do have ups and downs, throughout the day, right? But are they happy most of the time? And even when they are upset, when they have these negative emotions, do they know how to express them? Do they know how to express them? Do they know how to regulate them? So that's what we are looking for. Attitude. Do they love school? When they hear the word school, are they happy or are they crying? Do they love the learning they have in school? Do they enjoy the activities? So do they have positive learning attitudes? Routines, like I said, many changes after going into the primary school. They might have to wake up earlier. They have longer time, longer hours in the primary school. Are they able to adapt to the new routines and follow the new routines and schedule in school and at home? Okay, routine. And finally, as sociality. They don't have to be the most popular one. A lot of parents want their kids to be the most popular one. That's not going to happen to everyone. They don't have to be the most popular one. What we are looking for is that they have friends. They have friends. My boy has only one friend, one best friend until last month. Now he has 4. So he has a birthday party next month. He's inviting 4 friends to come, which we are very happy for him because they are very stable friendship. and they support each other and are there for each other all the time. When I look at the pictures that his teacher sent me, I always see Nicholas because that's his best friend. He's always there. So we don't need them to have many friends. We want them to have friends to be with them. And when they have problems, when they argue, do they know, like Mr. Charles said, do they know how to resolve the conflict and to find a solution? So that's what we are looking for social development. So altogether, imagine how many of you really loved going to school when you were a kid? Well, you don't really like going to school because you didn't like the test, right? Right? Is that right? Because if you are always ranking number one, of course you would love to go to school. But I would tell you that's not the case. That's not the case for kids. For children, they love to go to school. I interview a lot of young kids. And when I ask them, do you like to go to school? For those who told me they love to go to school, it's not because of the grades. It's not because they love the exams. It's because they love the activities in school. They love to see their friends. They like their teachers. They enjoy the learning. So we need to instill these skills in the children so that in the long run, they would love to go to school. And if they love going to school, they will be participating in the activities. They will be memorizing the things that the teacher said. And eventually, their grades will improve. So these are the foundation skills. But sometimes we don't see the results immediately. And as parents, we are naturally anxious. But from research and from experience, we know that this is true. So then what do we do? Mr. Charles just told you to get the refund, for the classes that you have signed. And I'm going to tell you to do the same. And I have evidence from my research because in Hong Kong and I'm sure in Singapore as well, parents just send these kids to so many extracurricular classes. And the research that I'm going to show you was actually done by myself and one of my students whose family own, a company, running these extracurricular classes for children. And she came to me and she said, well, I want to prove to the parents that they should come to us more because these classes work. I said, okay, let's do a research. The data won't lie. Let's rely on the data to tell us the story. So what we found was actually very interesting. I will explain to you in a moment. So what we tried to study was to look at the impact of parents' involvement, in this case, mother's involvement, and the impact of extracurricular classes, ECA, on children's school readiness, preparing for primary school, right? So the outcome is a survey that we asked the parents to rate children's all-round development, all-round readiness, including language, cognitive skills, their social skills, their emotion regulation skills. It's all-rounded, right? So what we found was the effects of ECA, these classes, on children's, the impact of these classes on children's school readiness actually depends on mother's involvement. So if you look at the dotted line on the bottom and the dashed line in the middle, you will see that if mothers are having a low involvement, so they don't do a lot, they don't have time to do a lot with their kids, with games, with activities, to help them with primary school. If you enroll your kids in some of these ECAs, they actually improve on school readiness, right? The slope goes up. But if you look at the top line, the solid line on the top, what is it like? Does it go up? No. Regardless of how many extracurricular classes you enroll your children in, if you are already highly involved, it doesn't make a difference. So why spend money on those classes if you can do more to help your kids? While you're saving money, you are building relationship with them. You are spending more time with them. You can spend this time on you pay yourself to get a good cup of coffee. You don't have to spend so much. A moderate amount is fine. Sometimes kids enjoy these activities. But if you are putting them in these classes for the purpose of increasing their school readiness, it's not going to be the most helpful way. Okay, and before I move on, I still want to show you another interesting finding in this study. So this time, we do not ask the parents to rate the children's all-round readiness. This time, we interview the kids. We ask them, tell us, do you feel confident in your cognitive skills, like your basic concept, like the color? Do you know math? Do you know numbers? Do you know language? So we ask the kids to report to us how confident they are in those areas. And the results are pretty similar for the first part. So if you look at the dotted line and the dashed line, when parents are low in involvement or average in their involvement, if you enroll in these ECA, it helps them to improve on their self-esteem or what you call these self-concept, right? But for the solid line, the black line, it's the group of parents who have high involvement. So at home, they're doing a lot with their kids, reading, playing games, or doing these activities, talking to their kids. They are highly involved. If you are already highly involved and you still send your kids to more ECA, what did you see? The slope goes down. If you are highly involved and if you are still sending your kids to these many ECAs, your kids actually feel that I have a problem. I need a lot of help. I'm probably not good enough. So if you ask them to report to you how they feel about their own ability, they tell you that I'm not so good. So we have evidence to show that overwhelming your kids will actually decrease their confidence and self-perception. So please keep that in mind when you decide, what to do and where to send them. So now that I've mentioned how important you are and that you can actually play a very critical role, I want to share with you some activities that you could do at home, just at home to be with your child and to help them. So these things that you do will help them to develop a more all-rounded readiness for primary school. So the first thing I want to mention is physical health. Physical health. Many parents told me that now we are in primary school, we don't have time to exercise. We don't have time to sleep. We don't have time to eat. So they are always rushing to finish their meal. They always sleep at 11 o'clock and then wake up at 7. Kids need to sleep well, eat well, and exercise well to have a good body, good health, to participate in the activities. If they don't sleep enough and exercise enough, their brain won't be working. So having good physical health is really the foundation that you need to help them build, starting from kindergarten. Having a regular routine, a good schedule, a well-balanced schedule for them to follow, it's very important. I want to remind parents that, during the pandemic, a lot of kids relied on screen products to kill their time, right? And even during the post-pandemic era, we have a lot of studies showing that kids still are addicted to these products. So it's time for us to help them let go if they are addicted to these products, because we know from a lot of research that screen time, the more time they spend on screen, the more likely that they will be developing, these habits, these unhealthy habits or lifestyle that are going to be related to obesity because of snacking or lack of physical activities. And we also know from a lot of research that engaging in physical activities and exercising will help improve the neurotransmitters in the brain that would help them be more, enjoy more in their learning, help them stay focused, and help them improve their memory. So exercising has a lot of benefits, and please schedule that. You need to schedule that in your routine. And so this is just a reference for you, because according to WHO and the American Academy of Pediatrics, your kids at this time should not watch more than 60 minutes of TV or 60 minutes of screen time. And then they need to exercise or engage in physical activity for at least 3 hours per day. 3 hours per day. So budget time in your schedule for that. And once they're in primary school, they still need at least 60 minutes of physical activity and no more than 60 minutes of screen time per day after 5 years old. So the second thing that you can do with your kids is to, promote their social and emotional development. Very simple and easy, arrange play dates for them, observe their interaction, see what your child needs for coaching. When they have problems, let them resolve it themselves. And when they couldn't do it, when they come to you for help, you know what to coach them based on your child's characters and based on your understanding from their conversation and from what they have said to you. Provide some induction and coaching to help them learn about problem-solving strategies. It's also good to, get to meet some of the friends that they will see in the primary school. These friends may not necessarily be the one that they will be their best friends in primary school, but it's good to see some faces in the new environment that they already learned, so that we can help them increase a sense of security in the new physical learning environment. Emotional adjustment, listen to your child. Talk to them about their emotions. Acknowledge their emotions. When they tell you, I'm so sad because he took my ball. Well, a lot of parents might say, at least in the Chinese culture, they might say, well, you're a boy, be strong. What are you crying about? We deny their emotions. Any emotions can be very valid to the young children. So acknowledge them, but coach them and talk through them to guide them ways to express them and regulate their emotions instead of telling them to stop crying and move on. Mental preparation, discuss with them and share your stories when you went to primary school. Kids think that we are heroes. They think that we must be very successful when we went to schools. But I'm sure we were not. We were not always successful. So since you are their heroes, tell them your successful stories. And at the same time, tell them your failure and how you overcame so that they know when they make mistakes, it's okay. And they can also foresee the kind of mistakes that they might be encountering. And that, again, help them to be mentally prepared. And they could also, cognitively rehearse, these situations that they may encounter in primary school, so that when they actually face these problems, they know that they are prepared for it and they know the reaction that they can be using in response to those situations. So for the bottom three, cognitive abilities, language skills, and positive learning attitudes, I'm going to encourage you to spend at least from now on, schedule at least 20 to 30 minutes each day to do these activities with your kids. Make sure you play with your kids every day. It could be some simple games or free play or board game or card game. These games are very useful in building their basic concepts, such as numbers that are important for early mathematics. In these board games and card games, you are actually stretching their memory, allowing them to practice turn taking, waiting for their turn. In these games, you are also, asking them to pay attention, stay focused. So these are all, the basic cognitive skills that are required when they learn in the classroom or complete their homework or do their exam. Language skills. Many parents also told me they don't read anymore in primary school because they have no time. They need to read the textbook. They don't read other books. They read the textbook. They need to study for the academics, so they don't think that reading it's that important anymore. But I want to remind you that when you read to your child, try not to only read the words, because if you are only focusing on recognizing the words, blending the words, there is no enjoyment to you and to the kids. What I encourage you to do when you read with your child is to do something what we call dialogic reading, like having a dialogue. When you open a book, when you see the drawing, ask questions. What is that? Who is that? How did it happen? What do you think will be happening? Ask your child to predict the story. Let them tell the story before you flip the page. When you do that, you are inviting your child to express themselves. They are making prediction. They are also articulating their thoughts. These language skills, expressive language skills, or being able to listen to you to understand what you are sharing, are also very important foundation language skills that will equip them for their literacy learning in the primary school. And finally, positive learning attitudes. This is really hard to cultivate. And some parents will think that, we just talk to them and tell them to be serious about learning, tell them to be curious, tell them to be creative. No, you cannot tell them to do these things. These things can be learned by doing. So first of all, I want you to know that these 4 skills are very important learning skills at this stage of the development that they need to develop. We don't talk about critical. We don't talk about critical thinking yet. We don't talk about organization skills yet because we will save them for later. Maybe in upper primary, we can focus on those. But in lower primary, these are the basic learning skills that will motivate them to enjoy their learning and to participate and engage in the learning activities in school. And if you as a parent do not have curiosity, do not have creativity, please try to find them in yourself. And if you don't have them, you still need to act like you have them. Okay, like I honestly, I'm not a very curious person when I was a child, but right now when I went to the shopping mall with my kids, I would pretend that I'm so curious at different things. So if I see a store selling special items, I would say, let's go over there to see what they're selling. And my daughter will be like, what's so interesting? I said, well, we don't know. That's where we are going. I want to see what they're doing. It may be interesting. So model to them that you are curious about things around you. If you're not creative, try to make something up and to show them that, I can create. Creativity, it's not about being the best. It's about the process. So model to your child that you also treasure these skills and these values. And I'm going to share with you some very simple activities that I do with my kids. And also the activities that we actually, in Hong Kong, we have distributed these booklets to all primary school 1 students in the last 2 years to help them, develop these learning skills. So the first thing that you could do with creativity is to do story creation. It's very simple. And I got this idea because when we were traveling, my kids would always tell me, tell me a story. And I would say, I have no book with me in the car. And they would say, well, just make up a story. So I started to look at the things around me. And then I would just use those objects and things that I see and include them in my story. And they love it. And I didn't realize that I could be so creative as well. And sometimes these stories are too creative that I have to say, in the end, I have to say, well, and suddenly, the person woke up and realized that it was just a dream because I couldn't end the story. They were too creative. And from time to time, I realized that they picked that up from me. And they actually tell me stories now that they create by looking at things around them. Kids can be very creative, and this is just one very simple way that you can do when you are taking the train, taking the bus with them. You do a story for them and have them do a story for you, or you two both do a story together by taking turn. I will say for 2 sentences, and then, excuse me, and then you tell me another 2 sentences by creating the story. Thank you. So story creation is one strategy that you can do. And another thing that you could do is to make sure that in your house, you have a corner that you keep all the materials that they can use to create things. They could be recycled materials, or they could be art craft or origami, just some very simple materials that they can create. Remember, with creativity, we don't want to have things that are quite faceted. Things with a particular purpose. We want them to be more open-ended that can be used for anything so that kids can create. So these are some of the examples of things that my children create, especially during the pandemic. We order a lot of things from online, so we have these boxes, and they have a lot of time at home, so they were able to create a lot. And after the pandemic, I do realize that we have fewer time. We have less time for these activities. So I try to make sure that each week, I will still schedule some time with them so that they can do these crafts together to also, cultivate their creativity. They love these things. They always want to keep them in the house. And I said, we have no space for it. So we will let them keep for maybe 1 month and take a picture. Then we have to let it go. So that's what we are telling them. But if they create these things, if they're happy with it, if they're proud about it, you will see that they can treasure that, I can be creative. Sometimes kids, as they grow, they have lost their creativity because we told them, this is too boring. This is not making sense. I don't know where you get this idea from. This is too ridiculous. So please try not to stop them during the process so that they can, really stretch their mind and give them time, because creativity takes time to develop. They have to plan, they have to organize, they have to implement, and they have to evaluate. If the strategy doesn't work, they have to switch to another strategy. So it all takes time. So make sure you have time for that. Can you please press the video? So this is another example of creativity that we had at home. So they use recycled paper to draw the fish. I don't know if you can see it. And then they cut the fish out. They put a paper clip on the fish. And then they started they even made these fishing rods with, the chopsticks and some magnets they found at home. And they can do this game for quite some while. starting from cutting, drawing to finishing the game. It was already 2 hours. It takes time. But your role is to be there to support them when they tell you, I don't know where to find this material, well, maybe you can go to this cupboard. Well, I don't have these materials at home. Then you can suggest to them, maybe you can try using this to see if it works. What do you think? You guide them, coach them instead of telling them or directing them. Okay, so our role is there to support. For curiosity and initiative, again, the strategies are quite simple. Try to find things in the world that may seem interesting to your child and bring them to your child, or bring your child to these things to arouse their curiosity. So these are some topics that we suggest parents to do some research with their kids in Hong Kong in one of our projects, like Harpy Eagle, Aquabus. I don't know if you have Aquabus in Singapore. We don't have that in Hong Kong. So I actually did a research on this topic with my son during COVID. He was very interested in it, and I promised him, let's find out more about it. And I promised one day when we can fly, we will go to take the Aquabus. So actually last year, when the border was still not completely open, we went to Australia and took the Aquabus, and he was so amazed because he did a lot of research about it before we do the visit. So ask questions as you do these research. When will we have a tsunami? What is the bus about? How does it work? How can it go into the water? Ask these questions and then ask them to predict, and then you find out the answers together with them. In the process, you are, again, cultivating their curiosity and encouraging to take initiative in their learning. This is I don't know if you've done this before in kindergarten, this is quite popular. So we have this rainbow milk experiment at home to teach them about science, about, the nature of water. And I actually use this experiment to teach my son that he needs to use soap and not just water to wash his hands during the pandemic. I will leave it to you to find out why. But basically, when I try to teach a concept, I will see if there are ways that I can inspire them and make them feel like, wow, this is interesting. Because with young kids, if you don't have something very colorful, very experimental, very hands-on, it's really hard to tell them and say, well, be curious, because it's not fun. So try to see if you have topics or ideas such as those that I just introduced to you that you can bring to your child to make them feel interested and to learn about it, to start the learning process. For problem solving, many teachers in primary school told us that kids love to go to them whenever there's a problem. They don't know how to solve the problem because they have been so used to relying on their parents at home to solve the problem. Tie my shoelaces, please. Can you get me the water? I don't have enough. I don't have a towel. I need to do this and that. They just call for their parents, and they are their helper. To solve all the problems for them. So for kids these days, we need to train them to solve the problem on their own. And sometimes it could be quite, during the day, you just try to let go and have them try out before you take over, the problem. And at the same time, I also encourage parents to do these scenarios, use these scenarios to do the problem solving game with the kids. And actually, the second scenario here was a real situation that happened to our family. So one time we went to the park and we were flying the kite, and the kite got stuck in the tree. So instead of telling my son that this is not going, we won't get back the kite, I asked him what could we do. So he told us, let's shake the tree together. I didn't say, well, it's not going to work. I said, well, okay, let's shake the tree together. And the tree did not move at all. And I said, well, what else can we do? And then he said, well, how about we use our ball we throw our ball up and see if we can hit the kite down. And I say, well, okay, but there's a possibility that the ball will also get stuck in the tree. Do you want to risk it? And he said, well, I will take the risk because I want the kite back so bad. And so, okay, let's try. And I tried, and he tried, and it did not work. And I said, do you have other ideas? He said, well, how about asking Daddy to climb the tree? And I said, well, I don't think Daddy is a monkey, but we can see if he would like to help. And Daddy tried, and of course it couldn't because the tree trunk was too big. So Daddy couldn't climb a bit. And I said, well, do you have any other ideas? He said, no. Then I told him, well, look around. There are some kites in other trees. So probably, it's really hard to get it back. Well, I'm so sorry you lost your kite. How about we go play something else, and next time we will make sure that we stay away from the tree when we fly the kite. So although in the end the problem was not solved, but in the process, instead of telling him that you will never get your kite back, I let him try. I let him come up with ideas to brainstorm some possible solutions. So I think in the process, he learned that he could have some ideas. He could try. And these are the important experience that you want your child to have so that they have confidence in their own problem solving. And this is quite safe, right? This is just scenarios. During the daily life, you could try. And then if you don't have that many situations to problem solve, then you can try these scenarios to discuss with them. Two other activities that I would recommend to you, to build their perseverance. On the left-hand side, you'll see that my daughter was using some cards to build a tower because during the pandemic, she told us to play Uno with her for more than 100 times. And we were so tired because we didn't have any other things to do. And then we told her, well, why don't you just let us take a rest? And she came up with the idea of building the tower. It was quite hard to begin with. And so she was struggling, and we sat next to her and we did it together with her, not with her tower, but we each built our own tower to demonstrate to her that it is not easy to us either. But we are trying, and we kept trying and trying. And this is the best that she could get. She was quite happy with it. And then we show her, how you tried many times before you get to this point. On the right-hand side, please also play the video. On the right-hand side, we were trying to build a root gobble machine because on YouTube, we saw that these experts were building a very long root gobble machine. You can just click the picture on the right, please. Yeah. So at home, we thought, maybe we can try building something as well. Is it not? It doesn't play? Can you click the picture? No? Okay, never mind. So we were building this root gobble machine. It was only like 10 seconds long, but it took us like 3-4 hours because in between she cried. She needed a break. I needed to give her ice cream to calm her because she was struggling a lot, but she didn't want to give up. Well, actually, she wanted to give up, but she want us to complete it for her. But we told her, no, it's okay. We are here. If you need to take a break, let's take a break and let's think about a strategy. Because for the first 5 seconds, it took her 2 hours. And finally, she got the first 5 seconds done. Then the last 5 seconds didn't work. And once she got to maybe the first 7 seconds, then she need to start over again. And the first 2 seconds didn't work. So it was like never ending on that day. But in the end, after so many hours, she managed to finish the task. Too bad I couldn't show the video. Otherwise, you can see that she used the card to hit the ball, and the ball went all the way. It's like a chain, went all the way to the end. And she was so happy about it. And I asked her, do you want to do it again? She said, no, never. But luckily, I have this video. And whenever she wants to give up on her piano competition, whenever she wants to give up on her Chinese writing, I tell her, look at this video. You wanted to give up, but you persist. You did not give up. You tried and tried, and with time, with practices, you were able to manage it. And I think you can do this with your piano competition. And I believe that you can do this with your Chinese writing. And it actually reminds her of her success in the past, and it encouraged her to continue. So try to think of some of these activities to do at home to give them the experience and taste of their ability so that you can remind them when they encounter difficulties in the primary school. So for those activities, as I just suggest, I just want to remind you that make sure you do a reflection with them. Don't just do the activity and finish the activity. After the activity, do a post discussion. Ask them, what did you learn? Did you try to give up? You did not give up. And how did you persist? What made you persist? And now that you have completed this task, how do you feel? Do you feel good about it? How could you apply these learning skills to your other learning in school? So help them to do this connection, because sometimes kids, they have a lot of abilities, but they are not aware of their skills and abilities. Therefore, they cannot apply them. So try to make the connection between the activity, their skills, and their future learning. Do the bridging for them. So to wrap it up, I want to remind parents that, the transition to primary school is challenging for both parents and children, right? But, if you could keep in mind that there are so much more than just the academic skills, the bears skills are also very important for them to possess before they go through the transition. I'm sure you can better help your kids to prepare for primary school. With bears in mind, I hope that you will be able to make more realistic expectation of your kids and to involve them in making any planning to succeed in primary school. And instead of just expecting them to do this and that, support them, provide cognitive autonomy, emotional support so that they feel that you are walking this path with them. And throughout the way, show your acceptance, show them your appreciation, praise them, let them know that how well they are doing, give them the confidence so that they can thrive, in the new challenges or new learning environment in the primary school. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Eva. May I just invite Dr. Eva to stay on stage? Maybe you can, take a sip of water. And Mr. Chan will join us shortly because we're going to have a Q&A session. If you have any questions, like you really want to ask our experts here, this is the chance too. And I was listening to Dr. Eva's presentation. And I think the COVID restriction period was really quite a huge challenge to parenting because we had to spend almost 24/7 together with our children at home. And I have two sons. One of them is turning 3, the other one is turning 8. And it wasn't easy back then. My younger son was still a baby, and my elder son really needed a lot of engagement. There's another activity that I do feel that you can try with your kids at home if you have absolutely nothing to do. Just pouring water. Pouring water is great fun. My younger son loves it, and my elder son loves it too. And then sometimes we add a little bit of vinegar and baking soda. Psst, very fun. Okay, I think the chairs are ready. We can get our guests to take a seat. And we're going to start our Q&A session. I believe we have some questions. If you have questions, you can just raise your hands right now. Okay, or maybe as we talk more, safe distancing. I can sit closer, right? Okay, suddenly I realized that I'm quite far from them. Okay, or is it because we need to see something? No, right? Okay, so if you have any questions, you can just raise your hands. Either, from where you are, you can just shout out your questions. If not, we have one question over there. Hi, do we have a microphone for him? So again, we have Mr. Charles Chan, principal of Henry Park Primary School, and Dr. Eva Lau, early childhood expert.
Hi, this question is for Dr. Eva. We saw a lot of data on the maternal involvement and the importance of it. Do you have any data or findings on the paternal side?
Nice. Did your wife make you ask this question?
No, it was me. I've been emphasizing that to her. I said, that's very important. It's your job. But I want to know if there's anything that I can do from my end
That's
as
really
well.
nice. Let's give him a round of applause for asking this question. All right. Okay, so Dr. Eva, can we have microphones for our guests as well? Yes. So paternal involvement. Okay, during the early years.
Thank you for your question. I think that I'm very glad that you asked that question. I do have a lot of research on father's involvement as well. But to be honest, the equation is not that simple. So for mothers, the more mothers are involved, the more time that they spend, the more quality, interaction that they have with their kids usually do better. But with fathers, the findings are not very consistent. So but that's not a bad news because we found that it's not about the quantity of time that fathers spend with kids. We found that it's actually the quality of fathers' involvement that matters more than the quantity. We also found that fathers' involvement is not just for the kids. Fathers' involvement are very important, usually in the co-parenting domain, meaning when you are supportive, when you think that your involvement matters, when you try to give out a hand to your wife, to the mothers, to see what you could do and supporting her in her mothering role, usually the mothers will adjust better. She has better well-being. She's more engaged in her interaction with the kids, and eventually the kids will do better. So this is why I said we don't have our consistent findings about the quantity of fathers' involvement on children's outcomes, but we do have quite substantial evidence that's showing that the quality matters and your role in supporting your spouse or the mothers matter a lot.
So happy wife, happy life applies here as well.
If I can add, I also know a lot more fathers are involved in the transition process, and for orientation, we get a lot more fathers coming. And one of the things that we do see, I also know research, but I also see in real life, when the parents come and the fathers are there, they provide that stability. They are the ones that say, go forward, go make that friends. And I think we really recognize that. I know Center for Fathering is trying to promote this day of school where the fathers come. They do these things, and they actually, that thing about tossing your child up in the air. Mothers tend not to do that, fathers do that. But in figurative points, you don't toss, but there are a lot of things that say, go and try, do these things. That's what we need our children to have.
I agree. I also want to add on that because we do have a lot of research suggesting that, fathers play with kids and engagement in these activities are very helpful because of gender stereotypes and how we were raised. Usually women, we are more likely to adhere to the structure and the rules and regulations. But for men, at least from research and from experience, we see that they are more open-minded. And so when kids have, get to experience both types of parenting, it's actually very beneficial to them, and it helps to reduce their gender stereotypes for both boys and girls in the long run as well. Yeah, so both mothers and fathers are important, and they're playing very different roles.
Yeah, from my own experience, sorry, let me just share a little bit more. I'm a parent volunteer at my son's school. I think that's me gathering intel on his school, where his classroom is, where his friends are, and what do they do during recess time. Sorry, so if you are interested, I don't know if Henry Park has similar parent support groups, but I'm sure different primary schools have. So if you have time, volunteer in the school, and you will learn so much more about their lives. And I see a lot of dads who are volunteering too. Okay, yeah, we have, oh, sorry, can I just give the lady in front first, then we'll get to the gentleman behind?
Yeah, I fully agree with Dr. Lau, Eva Lau, because I'm also involved in the early childhood, parents as partners, and we have seen leaps and bounds of progression and the child's social emotion, which plays a vital role in school readiness. See, because I was also helping Professor Padina Klein, who is one of the well-known professor, and the importance of working with parents as partner, not just in school, but also at home. And not on just on the academic, but the everyday daily routine of daily living. It helps a long way. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, I believe the gentleman behind in the teal t-shirt has a question.
Yeah, hi. I just want to add on. So, okay, like Payphone have mentioned, parent support group. I am in for almost 20 years. Yeah, because I have 4 kids. Lesser than Mr. Chan. Okay, we have 5. Okay, just now to mention about the father. Okay, Eva also mentions the quality time in parent support group, or I won't say parent support. I just want to say, okay, in Singapore, there's a Dads for Life, which is launched in 2009. Okay, this is a very good so-called initiative, which has proven, okay, fathers involving with children, okay, during activity, really quality, and children is very surprised, okay, what their daddies can do. And this one provides very good quality times in the activities, which is the daddies and the children's, okay, do activities together, especially maybe campings over a day where we have the mummies go for a day out night themselves and then leaving the kids and the daddy in the camp to really spend time and then cook. Amazing, some father cook better than their moms. Okay, surprisingly, okay, and then and also the father will appreciate, okay, taking care of the kids themselves. Okay, how much they appreciate the mother side. Okay, have been taking care of their kids. You see.
Yeah, thank you for sharing as well. Yeah.
I just want to share a little story because now that I'm in Singapore for one week, my husband is the one who looks after my children. And I always, just in March, I flew to America for work for another week too. I was hoping that he would be texting me all the time, telling me that the kids need you, or when are you coming back? But they never really text me because Dad was doing a very good job. This morning he was telling me the kids were fine. I was hoping that they would cry, but they don't cry because Daddy is doing a very good job. So I think, to mother, I'm a working mom, but I think to mothers in general, it would be really helpful to know that we have a culture of sharing about the importance of fathers, and fathers are more likely or feel more comfortable to engage both at home and in school. So I think creating this culture all together as a community would be very beneficial to the well-being of families. Yeah. I just want to echo that.
Sorry, is there a question from the floor? Okay, sorry, we have one over here and one over there, right? We'll get to you shortly. Yes, can we have a question?
Hello, good morning to Dr. Lau, Mr. Chan, and Pei Fen. Thank you very much for mentioning the parent support group. I want to take this opportunity to encourage all the parents here to join our centers in the parent support group. I have many parents here from Tampines and Fengshan. So listen to our speakers, and this is a very good opportunity to know more about the schools, our activities. Please come to join us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, sir, you have a question. Our microphone is coming to you.
Hello, thank you for giving me an opportunity. Dr. Lau, when I'm in the beginning of it, I see there is a 小学, 中学, 大学, but there are occasionally I come across 高学, where it's actually meanings that is, let's say you are talking about 中学, it means to certain level of middle school. 高学 it means pre-university. I'm not sure, but this is very confusing for me also. Okay, that is one part of it. This is one part of questions, but this is quite far away from my kids anyway. The one thing which give me worry is some problems with parents. They give me some advice. It's like when here the presentation is like giving me the holistic approach of education. You don't go after start benchmarking, rushing for marks. But then I can't stop worries like, now, it says that now from kindergarten, if you don't choose a kindergarten school, we give them extra mark, like push up the pants, right, to run extra fast, right? They have to start with 汉语拼音 by when you should 汉语拼音 should be coming in kindergarten per se. Okay, so in order to transition to P1, so by then they are not so worrisome. Again, some parents also give me worry is certain school in primary school, if you don't make the marks, you will be asked to go to some other school which is comfortable for a kid. By then, he said it will be quite sad for the kids to leave from one school, again, another 12 months. Okay, so it means that to me is that whether should I invest, like even for a preschool, send her for enrichment in English or enrichment in Mandarin or enrichment in Maths, okay? Which again, being the point, like I said, I'm very, no time, the tuition, it is a very sad approach, but for parents, of course, you can't say, I can never stop, because the society are trained to, benchmark everything.
Mm-hmm.
Are you on the mark?
Numbers and figures and grades, right?
Correct. For I don't know where, that's where the problem for parents. Parents is like, whether should I point money or save some money for later. So this is also juggling.
Okay. So your question is actually
how to measure the
how to handle your own insecurities about the academic part of your child, or is it something like
just,
that?
Just let them enjoy the childhood, then worry that later. Again, worry that later if they don't make the mark, meaning they can't make enough living.
So you're worried for the future, right?
Yes.
Right.
Forever worry, some never end. No?
Sorry?
You worry some for the parents will never end until you know.
Yeah. Part of a job of being a parent is
Correct.
to worry. So
Correct. But then is the question is, should we start thinking enrichment or just never mind, relax a bit?
okay, I believe both our experts in their presentations actually highlighted with facts and figures from research and also personal experience that enrichment does have very limited effect on preschoolers, right? For their transition, for their confidence, for their competence. So actually for this, to answer your question, in short, yes, you can stop all the enrichment classes for now. But I believe the other part of your question is, what happens in future? What if one day, like there are no more exams? I have this worry as well. No more exams, right? P1, P2. So what if one day, because my close friend, her son is in P3, and she just shared with me that her son failed 2 subjects, and she was really shocked. And I was shocked too, because I know this bright boy. He's playful, but he's really clever, intelligent, creative, and vocal. And suddenly she tells me that her son failed 2 subjects. And she was really, really unhappy and really, really dejected. So I think this gentleman is asking about this stage. Mr. Chan, would you have any answers for that?
That's another seminar altogether. But I want to assure you that we do not transfer children if they cannot make the mark. I don't think that's the case in primary school. In fact, if that happens, then I need to answer to my bosses. Our job is to work with any child that comes to us. And I think that's something that we will assure you. We assure any parent, even those who have mild and moderate special needs. I assure every parent that we are here to work with you. You are in here with us. We are here for that 6 years. And if at any point of time, even if you fail, it's just that exam, right? You're not a failure in life. And we want them to learn to fail, even if it's that one test or it's not the end of the world. We'll move them, we'll work with them. We help them to fail in CCA, in sports. We want them to see that, look, I lost. I want them to be able to say to me, Mr. Chan, some of them actually say, we kind of like didn't win. I was like, you lost lah. You lost, you failed. And you failed, say it. Because you don't say it now. When are you going to say it when my girlfriend broke up with me and then I'm going to take my life? Learn to do these things. And then we can say, look, we have to pick ourselves up. And that's where we together as a parent, as families, and with school, we will say, we will help you to build that grit. And we'll say, let's talk about it. What happened? What went wrong? My child comes back and tells me he failed too. I said, okay, fail. We all fail. We have moments, but we didn't fail in life. We can try, and there's always a pathway to try again. And so that's our role. We want to move. 21st century parenting requires us to try again. There will be people who are more competitive than us. The jobs that people will take above us. There'll be a scholarship that we may not be able to get. My daughters face that. But there will be things that we need to say, then let me try something else. There should be another pathway. It's not the only end thing. And that's what we need to build them.
Well, I think the parents' question is more about, I don't know if you are worried about selecting the schools, because in Hong Kong, in where I'm coming from, there are situations where, if you don't get, if you don't perform very well at the school interview, they don't get into these elite schools. So I think that's a different story. But from research, we know for many years that, if you just look at the early grades, when they have started formal schooling, if you look at their early grades, and if you look at bears, those socio-emotional well-being, their attitudes, their routines, these soft skills, comparing these 2 things, the hard academic skills and the soft skills, in the long run, it's actually the soft skills that are predicting their school success. Kids who are doing better on those domains tend to have fewer dropouts. In high school or in the university, they are more likely to have mental well-being in the long run. So I think as parents, it's a struggle. At this point, all other parents, they are competitive. They are sending kids to do these many things. But just look at your child. Are they overwhelmed? Are they happy? If they are happy to attend these piano classes, to learn these Legos, learn about different things, if they are happy, they're not overwhelmed, I don't think it's harmful. But if the purpose of sending your kids to these classes are to get them an early start so that they can be successful at the finish line, I think parents will need to have a second thought and reconsider that, because from research, we don't have evidence saying that, kids who do better grades in the early years will be very likely to be successful in the university or in their life. That we don't have that very strong evidence yet. Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to add that, asking them whether they're happy, most of the children that I know will tell you they're happy. They want to make you happy too. And the children want to make our parents happy. They will say, I will go for the tuition, I will do all my homework because I want my parents to be pleased with me. Whether they're stressed, they'll come and tell me after that. They'll tell my teachers after that. So be careful when you say, I asked them to go for all these enrichments, and they say, yeah, we're happy. Read between the lines. Look at them carefully. They want to make you happy, and just like we want to make our own parents happy too.
Yeah, so maybe I think the most important thing is to make our kids love learning instead of make them learn things. If you make them learn things, they might not love learning. So that's the difference. And also from personal experience, my son actually went through a period of strange tantrums in P1. I used to think that, it must be, lack of sleep or, I don't know, something just make him cranky. But now, I looked back and I realized that I think he was a little bit stressed at the beginning of primary school. So these are cues that you have to pick up. If you notice something a little bit different about their temperament, maybe they are a little bit stressed in school. And now I make it a point every day to ask my son, what happened in school today? Not just how was school, because if I ask him how was school, he will say, okay lor. Okay, can, yeah. So when I ask him what happened, sometimes he will say nothing. And then I push further because in my job, right, I'm an interviewer, right? So I'll just get on with it, right? Really? Nothing especially fun or sad or happy? And then he'll start to open up and talk to me. So I think that's good communication, strategies. Okay, maybe we have time for one last question. Do we have any more questions? No, we're all very happy. Okay, so thank you so much for participating in our Q&A session. And once again, thank you to our experts. Please give them a round of applause. We do have a token of appreciation for Mr. Chan and Dr. Lau. May I invite on stage Ms. Angela Young, Director of PCF, Professional and Educational Development Division, to present our tokens of appreciation to our two guests. Oh, okay. This one is for Mr. Chan. Yeah, a photograph as well. Let's give Mr. Chan another round of applause for his insightful and enriching sharing, and equally insightful and informative as well, Dr. Eva Lau. Thank you so much. Oh, these are such beautiful. Okay, maybe a group photo as well together. A little bit towards the front. Oh, me too. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Eva. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Mr. Chan. You can take a break now. Okay, so once again, thank you to all our parents for being here. I'm sure you know that there are a lot of fringe activities, and tomorrow we also have day 2 of the parenting conference. And this afternoon, we have a lot of activities going on as well. But I need to remind you of the PCF Sparkle Thoughts Open House happening on June 24th. If you are interested, you can visit openhouse.pcf.org.sg or scan the QR codes on the banners around. I think there are some banners. Is there a QR code here? No, maybe outside, okay? Okay, so next we have networking and lunch at spaces 1 and 2 from now till 2:30 p.m. And then at 3 p.m., there's another panel discussion. I'll be here as well. Truths about early childhood, also at space 1, which is where we are, right? Okay. And so you can come back here at 3 p.m. if you're interested in this panel discussion. And 4:15 to 5 p.m., we have parent and child workshops. Words around the world for ages 1 to 3 at the community center function room. Okay, that's at 4:15 p.m. I think it's about words, okay? If you don't know where these venues are, you can just approach our PCF team to ask them. And at 4:30, there's another workshop, Parent-Child Games for promoting children's executive functions here at Space 1. And at 5:30 to 6:30 p.m., panel discussion, exploring literacy, also here at Space 1. So if you want, you can just spend the entire day here. And then, in between the events, you can go to the fringe activities. Our friendly ushers in red shirts can direct you to the venues, of course, the toilets as well. If you have friends whose kids are below the ages of 6, Do invite them to join us here at our Tampines Hub for all these exciting activities till 6:30 p.m. And very important, on your way out, do remember to redeem your goodie bags. Thank you so much. My name is Paven. Hope you have a nice lunch. Thank you.